So a lot of the things that I did in my business at the beginning was for me being an impulse buyer. So don't be an impulse buyer, be an impulse planner, and do a lot of your research before you buy. And also, I'm pretty sure if I didn't have the money, I probably wouldn't have bought it. So a lot of it stems from having the cash, because if you didn't have the cash, then you wouldn't have bought it. So hola mi gente bella y bienvenidos a mi canal. My name is Sandra if this is your first time here, and welcome to my channel. In this channel, you'll be learning and I'll be speaking about everything high-end or luxury candle making business tips. So without any further ado, let's get into the video. As you can tell by the title of this video, we'll be discussing about candle making mistakes to avoid, which will be beginner series tips for 2020. So my first tip is starting before knowing your industry. And I'm not talking about candle making per se. I'm talking about marketing, labeling requirements, fill weight versus jar size, buying in bulk versus buying individual items, fragrances, how much inventory to have, wigs, which wigs to use, which wax to use, your equipment, which equipment is best for you, and to level up once you have those inventories set in place. That's the kind of knowing your industry before you start, because you might have the best candle out there, but if you don't know how to, what's the labeling requirements, you could get into trouble with that. If you don't know what the warning label should look like, you could get in trouble with that. And also, if you don't know how to market your candles, how are you going to be selling your candles if you don't know how to market your candles? So you need to know about your industry before you start into the industry. So do the back end research, and also know exactly what it is that you need to have way before you start your candle making business. Because I've seen a lot of businesses start and a lot of businesses end because they didn't know how to go about the marketing, especially the marketing. The marketing is the biggest part of any business, because if you don't know how to market your business, then you won't have people coming to your business. So you need to know that way before you start making candles. So my recommendation is for you to read up on marketing tips. And I read a lot of books. Actually, I read a lot of books on, because I drive a lot, so I really do use the Audible, and I really do read a lot of books on marketing and how to market your business. And I really do suggest that you guys get into reading up on marketing. My number two tip that you should avoid while starting your candle making business is knowing when to outsource and not doing everything by yourself. There are certain things that you can do by yourself, such as obviously making your candles and making your products, but there are little things that you could outsource that you don't have to do by yourself. Such as labels. I mean, I know that a lot of people know how to do their own labeling at home, and that you're saying that you could make it at home because you're not wasting money, or you're saving up on money, and that could be outsourced. You don't have to do everything at home. And if you could make that little effort to add it to your business, that is such a big help, because buying extra labeling stickers and buying ink and the actual machine to the printer, or if you have a Cricut machine, would save you a lot more in the long run, because you already have a whole stack of stickers already waiting for you to be labeling your actual product, as opposed to you doing one by one every single time. And sometimes those one by one don't come out exactly the same every single time. So that's something that you should keep in mind when you are thinking about outsourcing. Another thing is not doing everything yourself, is rushing to purchase an item when it's just an idea, or just a thought before you even reflect on it, and before you test it out first. I say so because I've done that sometimes, maybe most of the time, where I think about something and then I write it down, and I don't really look at the pros and cons of the entire idea before I even say, you know what, I'm going to do this. And then when I get it and I actually put it down on paper, and I actually do what I thought it was going to come, it doesn't really come out the way that I thought it was. So then that was a resource wasted, because now I don't really necessarily use that anymore. I really do encourage you to keep that mindset that just because your business is handmade, you don't have to handmade everything in your business. There are certain things that you should outsource, as I said before, especially in a luxury candle line. There are certain things that needs to be outsourced in order for you to be able to market, brand, and promote to attract customers to your website. Those are products such as your website photos, your labels, as I said before, your product boxes, packaging, especially packaging. It doesn't have to be like extremely outlandish and outrageous, but at least your packaging should not be in a craft box as the same box that comes in when you get your supplies. So you need to at least level up from that. So that's where your packaging should be, spruced up so that it can be labeled as luxury. Also, because you want to have one cohesive look with your business, and you want to have one type of paper, one type of sticker, one type of label, so that everything looks exactly the same for each individual candle that you make. So if I'm your customer and I purchase 5 different candles from you and 5 different scents, every single scent should have their own every single candle should have their own scent, but the labeling placement, the labeling paper, the warning stickers, the lid, the boxes should all be exactly the same, because you want to brand and to market your product exactly the same, so that one product might not look different from the next. So that's why I mean, like, you should be able to outsource certain things in your company so that your company could have that cohesive look. Now let's move on to tip numero 3, wasting money. I'm speaking from personal experience, because I was thinking that when I started my business, I was going to do candles. I was also going to do wax tarts, but I wanted to make my wax tarts different from everybody else's. So my idea on paper and in my head was to make flower molds, because obviously my business is called Aroma and Roses Candles. So I was like, oh, it's a good idea to make molds out of flowers, and that'll be my wax tart, and I could put it into a bundle. And I really liked that idea when I had it in paper, so I purchased like 30 molds, because I was thinking, okay, so I'm gonna be making all these molds. I'm gonna be making all these wax tarts, so I need like different molds, so I could just put molds to done and then put them aside and package them or whatever. But I didn't realize that you don't really need that much molds, because wax starts cure a lot faster than candles, and you could just pop them out really quickly. And then the way that I was going with my business, I really didn't want to add wax starts. Maybe I'll add them in the future, but as of right now, I don't really want to add them anymore. I didn't want to do wax starts, and so now I have 30 molds, which I haven't even used, because maybe 6 of them, maybe I use 6 of them just to test out or whatever. So yeah, make sure that the idea that you come up with is something that you are going to be using, and if you are going to be testing that idea, just purchase 1 or 2 and then test it out. If you don't like it, you didn't waste that much, and if you do like it, then you go ahead and restock and purchase more. But at the beginning, you don't really need to buy like a huge amount of an inventory that you are not sure that you are going to be using. So yeah, don't buy things that you don't necessarily need because you haven't tested out correctly at the beginning. And I also have tea lights and tea light boxes that I am going to incorporate, but I'm not going to incorporate right now. But I do have a lot of tea lights and tea light boxes that I really don't use right now, because that's not where I'm gearing my business towards. So that's another thing that I have a lot of that I don't really use at this very moment, and particularly because the boxes that I did purchase for the tea lights is not the box that I was trying to go for. So good thing it was not expensive, but however, those are monies that I lost. Now tip number 4, trying to master all social media at once. And I'm not talking about particularly my business per se, because I learned my lesson from before, because I am a writer and I do write books. So I was trying to market my books in Instagram, in Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr, a lot of social media out there that I could try to put my book out there. That's what I was doing. So I was just pumping stuff into all these social media until I got literally burned out. Like I couldn't even like put all of those things all together. So and then now like I kind of stalled on writing, and now it's only because I've kind of burned out a little bit, but I'm gonna get back into the mix of things. And also, if you're trying to master everything all at once, you don't master anything at all. So now I'm trying to get into Instagram, and Instagram always comes out with something, well, not always, but the moment that I master one thing, and then it comes out with something completely different. So I was into the IGTV and then the stories, but then now Reels comes out, and now I'm trying to get into IGTV stories and Reels all at the same time. But you don't have to do that. My recommendation, and that's what I'm trying to do right now, is to just tackle one thing at a time. Post regularly as you always do. I know I'm kind of like lacking down on that one, but you know, post regularly, and then once you get that down packed, you could add 1 IGTV per week, and that's it. And then that same IGTV video, you could also put it into your story, so you could just repurpose the actual video and put it into your story, so you won't have to be making different ideas for one for the post, one for IG, and the other one for the stories. So you could just repurpose the same content into those 3 different posts, IG, and stories. So that's a good thing for you to do. But right now my plate is super full, so I'm like a little bit, I'm stepping back from social media, because social media does take a lot of my time. a mistake that I did, for this will be my mistake number 5, was me not focusing on one project at a time, especially if it was a big project. So what I mean is that aside from trying to tackle social media, I was also trying to tackle writing my book and starting my business. And I was also blogging at the same time with my books. And then I was also trying to start my YouTube channel at the same time. So all of those were big projects that I was trying to tackle at the exact same time. And even if you have a project-based calendar, you need to be able to eliminate the big projects that you're doing at the same time. So if you're using 3 weeks out of the year to do one big project, just focus on that big project, and then you could add posting here and there for the other social medias that you do have, but do not try to add another big project in that 3-week time block that you have to add 2 big projects at the exact same time, because you are going to burn out. One of them is going to take most of your time versus the other, and one might do better than the other, and then you might think that it was something that you did, when in reality it's because you wasn't focused on one project at that particular time. So especially if you have a 9-to-5 that you're trying to juggle with making your own personal business obviously skyrocket, you don't want to give precedence to one thing over the other. You want to have everything have the exact same type of level of importance in your business, especially if you are dedicating a lot of time off your regular 9-to-5 to make your business run prosper. So that's my recommendation to you. Try to have a schedule that you have and tackle only one big project at a time. So if your big project is to try to make your candles look a certain way, then tackle that, and that will be your one big project until you move on to the next one, which might be your fragrances, which fragrance you want to tackle with, which fragrance you want to add to your actual candle line, and the wicks that you want to use. You make sure that those will be a project that you focus on, and that you focus on that only. And then you move on to social media, and then if you want to include social media into your schedule, then schedule that ahead of time and make sure that you have a block out in your calendar, so you could have your social media posts regularly, and however it is that you choose to post on social media. Now, my next mistake that I did to avoid in my next endeavor, or for you not to do, will be this, my tip number 6. Tip number 6. Purchasing the first candle vessel that I saw before researching the candle vessel. So I know in my previous video I had touched up on that, but this will be a tip of mine for you to be very straightforward, and to do the research and not just settle for the first thing that you see and then purchase that and then call it a day. Like I said, I had the tin cans, and because it was the first candle jar that I saw, and it was in the actual kit that I purchased, and I thought that that was like the best thing ever. So and I purchased like a whole bunch of tin cans, and that was what I was trying to go for with my business. And then I kind of realized that, hold up, I don't really have tin cans in my house for when I burn my own candles, so why am I going to be selling tin cans when I don't really like tin cans like that? So now that's what for me didn't work out for me. And I mean, tin cans might work out for other businesses, but for what I was trying to do, it didn't work out for me. And the price point wasn't expensive, but that wasn't what what I wanted to do. I'm trying to sell luxury candles, and luxury candles don't particularly come in a tin can. I know I've seen tin cans like the one that 1617 has, but those are limited editions, and those are like the like it looks like a bowl, but it doesn't have a lid, and you can't really put a lid on it because it's a very concave type of container. It is luxury, but if I want to make more candles in the future, it says limited edition, so I did not want to do that. And then besides, when I first started, those weren't even there. So yes, do not rush to purchase vessels, containers, wax, fragrance oils, wicks that you first see or first use, and then buy those in bulk. And then when you realize, into your business, midway into your business, you realize that, hey, I don't really like this. And then you have to shift everything and do everything all over again and start from scratch. Don't get into that, and don't do as I did. So this brings me into my tip number 7, and my 7th tip is buying bulk before testing my small product that I already had. So what I mean is I bought IGI 6006, I bought soy 6464, I bought IGI 4627, and I just bought them because of what other candle makers were doing and what worked for them without me even having my own testing at the time. And it's ridiculous because like my background is in biology, and all we do is test, and I didn't even follow my own advice, number one, and then number two, my background. So what I did, good thing I didn't buy like massive amounts of waxes. What I did do was I do have some of each of those waxes, but it's not a lot that I can't make them for myself and for my family, and for to give out to family and friends. But what I shouldn't have done, what I should have done was to test out what I already had and see if that works for me, and then from there decide if those are the things that I wanted to include into my business. However, I am going to say that it did help me in the long run, because now I became more knowledgeable about those individuals' waxes, and I can give you more insight on what did and did not work for me, and to let you guys know what can and cannot work for you as well. So it kind of burned at the beginning, because I was like, well, I kind of have all these waxes that I really don't use for my business, but it helped because now I know how soy works, how IGI 6006 works, how the paraffin wax works, and how coconut wax works. I haven't tried beeswax. I don't think I'm gonna be able to try that one, because I read that it does have the beeswax does still have that scent, and I don't really want it to have that scent when I make my candles, so that's why I haven't tried beeswax. And I haven't tried the palm wax also, because that a lot of suppliers have palm wax. But I don't know, maybe in the future I might just purchase it to see how it looks and how it performs, and maybe I might start a little candle line with those type of wax. I don't know, I'm just spitting out ideas, but I'm not going to do it yet. So so buying things in bulk, primarily waxes, and then not knowing if that's the route that you really wanted to take, don't do that. And on that same note, I purchased so much wicks because I thought that certain wicks went with certain waxes, which is true, but I didn't end up using certain waxes, so now I have extra wicks that I don't particularly use for my business. So I have CD wicks, CDN wicks, I have HTP wicks, and I have LX wicks. The good thing about that is that I don't, if I do run out of one, I know which wick works with my vessels because I have extra of other wicks that I could particularly use for the vessels that I already have. So if I don't have HTP 104, I could use the LX series because I know that the LX series works with my candle jar and that wax as well. So I did do a lot of testing. So in that regard, I do know it kind of worked out for me at the end because now I have extra wicks that if one runs out, I have another to supplement whatever that was not used or was used up because I ran out of one. I haven't tried the wooden wicks, but I did order a kit, not a whole bunch. I just ordered a kit because I wanted to try out the actual wood wicks with my coconut soy that I'm trying to come out with because I wanted to have it a lot more of a natural type of feel because I'm trying to come out with a new collection, and that new collection will be like way down the line in November, so I'm prepping up for that. And I do want to add the wood wick with the coconut wax. So that will be something new that I'm trying to work out into, and I will be sharing when I launch that new collection in my candle business. So that lets me move into the next tip. I believe is my 9th tip, my 8th or my 9th tip. I kind of lost count right now. Oh yes, on that same note on buying too much wax, buying too much wigs, I also bought a lot of fragrances. And I think fragrance is something that I will always purchase because I love scents and because I like to mix and blend my scents. When you do a lot of blending and mixing, then you have to always purchase more and more fragrances. And yes, I do purchase a lot of fragrances, but I do purchase a lot of the sample sizes just to make sure that that's the scent that I want to go for. And when I do, and if I do like that, then I do purchase the bigger bottles. So I do purchase a lot of scents, but I do purchase the sample sizes so that I could know more or less if I like that scent or not. So that brings me into my next tip. And this tip is listening to people whose taste in candle jars, candle wax, candle wicks, candle fragrances is way different from mine. And also on that same note is also listening to people who only tested one product, one wax, one wick, one jar, and went with their opinion. In my opinion, I believe in order for you to be a well-rounded person to give out knowledge, you have to obviously know more than the people that you are trying to teach. So if I only know about one wax, one wick, one vessel container, and I have not tested any other things at all, you might not be using the same products that I'm using. So how can I give you an advice on something that I have not even used before? The only thing I could give you advice on is everything that I have used. But if you don't have that knowledge and you don't have a wider range of knowledge on everything else that's out there, then your opinion is kind of biased to only one product and only one thing. So my recommendation is, if you are listening to other people that only have one product, have only used one product, is do more research. Their opinion is obviously good because they stuck with that and that's what works for them. But listen to other people who have also used other products, because if you only stick with that one idea or one opinion, then you are going to also be stuck with that one mindset, and you won't be able to branch out because you only listen to that one idea. Also, on that same note, is knowing not to stick with only one supplier. If you only have one supplier that you only use, then you won't know what other things are out there. There's other price points, there's other qualities, there's other suppliers that do have more than that one particular supplier that you do think that has the best options, but in reality does not. So always look for other avenues to actually elevate your own business. And also, if that one candle supply runs out of the materials that you use, then you're stuck waiting for when they restock. And if everybody else is actually using that same supplier, then you're also waiting in line with a whole other candle makers that want to buy from that same particular supplier. So make sure that you don't only buy your candle wicks from one supplier. Just make sure that you know that you can purchase from other suppliers. And the reason why I say this too is because when you do buy from one location, their shipping rates might also be higher or lower depending on whatever it is that you buy and from what coast that you're buying it from. Because I know things from California takes a little bit longer to get to me in Miami. So then if I did not know that and I ran out of something now and I just so happens to find this new supplier on the internet and then I purchase from them and then it takes around a week to get from there to here, then I wouldn't have known that if I wouldn't have done my research ahead of time. So that's another thing why you should have multiple suppliers for the same products that you use, also for quality wise, because you want to know what kind of quality they have. And that brings me back to listening to people whose taste is way different from yours, because they might tell you, oh yes, I use different fragrances, and the fragrances that they use is not primarily the red fragrances that you use, so you can't really know what it is that they suggest, because their suggestion is not something that you use. Also, on that same note, whatever they smell might not be the same type of smell that you like. So let's say for example, teak wood, it's a scent that is nice, but it's not nice for everybody. Some people add the teak wood to another fragrance because the teak wood alone doesn't smell particularly nice. I mean, I like it, but you might not like it. So I could tell you, yes, it smells wonderful, but then when you purchase it and then you get it and you're like, wait, hold up, I don't like this scent. So then you wasted money on a recommendation that I gave you because to me it was good, but then when you bought it, you did not like it. So then that gives you a kind of nasty taste in your mouth that I gave you because you really did not like that scent. So that's what I mean by if you are purchasing something from someone that doesn't have the same taste as you, then if you are trying to get them as your recommendation, then purchase the small sample set, and then from there you move on. Don't purchase like the big bottle thinking that because they like it, you're gonna like it too, because it might not be true. Now that brings me down to my the tip for everybody, and I'm sure everybody has gone through this. Getting burned, overheating your wax, adding the wrong fragrance. Oof, that happens a lot. Adding too much dye in your candles, or adding too little dye if you are using colors in your candle jars. Let me see what else. Breaking jars. Melting too much wax and then you don't really need that much, so then you're forced to make more candles because that's not what you didn't measure out correctly. Using the wrong wicks, forgetting to label your candle jars, and this is particularly for me because I always forget to put the warning labels at the bottom of the jars. Now I keep a checklist on my wall where I do my putting everything together, my packaging table, and I have a checklist that I go through to make sure that I have the labels on, and that I have the warning stickers, that I have my my care card, so that I won't forget what goes in each box when I ship out those boxes. So that's a good thing to keep. And about the burning, I mean, what can I say about that? You're working with hot wax, you are bound to get burned. So that's something that you're not going to be able to prevent, but you can keep safe by wearing sneakers, wearing jeans or long pants, and wearing gloves. I wear gloves because, again, I have manicures and I like to keep my manicures nice, and I don't like to get stuff stuck underneath my fingernails, so I wear gloves. But you could also wear gloves for making candles if you want to, and also wear long sleeves if you don't want to get splashed on with wax or splashed on with fragrance oil if you are making your candles in a large batch order. And also, when you are using your heat gun, if you are using the heat gun to level out the tops of your containers, then sometimes some of the wax can splash out if you are putting the heat gun too close to your candle jars. So other things that I have done was to multitask. I know us as people, we like to do multiple things at the same time, and I know while you're waiting to melt your waxes, you are also trying to do another thing at the same time. But I don't suggest to do that because I have burned a lot of waxes doing that, and I learned from my lessons, so learn from me. Don't multitask while making candles. Unless you are melting your candles right there and you're actually right next to it, or either wicking or blending your fragrances, then that you could do that. But if your candle double boiler method is right here, and then you have to run back there to go do the wicking situation, don't do that. Just wait until your actual candles are fully melted, and then go ahead and do that, or bring that over to where you're supposed to be with the candle melting, because then you're going to burn your candle wax, and you're going to have to start all over because you don't want burned smell when you make your candles for resale. Another thing is to tackling. I was tackling trying to make soaps and making candles at the same time. Don't do that. Making soaps is a lot of fun. I'm not even gonna lie. It's a lot of fun, but it takes way too much time to cure. It takes about 3 to 4 weeks to cure, and if you want it to be like perfect, it takes even longer than that. So my advice is, if you are trying to make soaps, do a melt and pour first, and if you like that, then move up to the is it the hot process soaps? I believe that's how you call it, the hot process soaps. And then if you like doing that, then you move into the cold process soap, which is way nice to make. So yeah, so if you are trying to get into the soap making side of your business and adding it to your candle making business, then I suggest to start off with the melt and pours, then the hot process, and then the cold process, because the cold process is a lot difficult than the other two. The melt and pour is a lot easier because you just mix, blend, and that's it. And you don't really have to do too much to it. But the cold process soap is a lot, it takes much more chemistry to do that, and a lot of waiting to do that. So I highly suggest, if you are doing a cold process soap, and it's a lot, and actually it's kind of expensive to do because there's a lot of chemicals that you have to include into your candle making, soap making, in order for you to actually do soaps. But it is a lot of fun to do. So if you are trying to add soap to your line, then look a lot into it. I do love Royalty Soaps. She is amazing and her videos are super fun. And yeah, she has a lot of resources out there and she makes cold process soaps for her business, and I highly recommend you watch her if you are looking into starting a soap business. For my very last tip, I'm going to reiterate that in order for you to be a well-rounded and to be able to give accurate and sound advice, I think that you should know more than who you're educating. So if you are someone who wants to be a YouTuber, or if you want to, you don't have to be a YouTuber, but if you want to start a little community and you know a lot of information for making candles, then make sure that you know more than what the other person knows, because then if you don't know, then you're going to be asking you questions that you're going to be stuck on saying, let me get back to you on that, or I don't really know, the one that I use is such and such, and you don't want to do that. You want to be able to give them a straight up answer, and to give them an answer that you knew because you already went through it, you already done it, and it worked or it didn't work for you. A lot of what I did in my business and a lot of the mistakes that I did in my business was because I'm an impulse buyer. And being an impulse buyer is not that good, because then you end up buying a lot of things that you really don't need. It's just based on wants. So like wasting money, that's something that I did on my own because I just wanted to purchase things, and the first thing that came to my mind and I thought that I wanted to do, and then I just purchased it. So a lot of the things that I did in my business at the beginning was for me being an impulse buyer. So don't be an impulse buyer, be an impulse planner, and do a lot of your research before you buy. And also, I'm pretty sure if I didn't have the money, I probably wouldn't have bought it. So a lot of it stems from having the cash, because if you didn't have the cash, then you wouldn't have bought it. So I highly encourage you to do a lot of your research on your own to make sure this is what you really wanted to do, and not to do the mistakes that I had laid out for you in this video. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Give it a thumbs up. It helps me in the YouTube algorithm, and I will